Hey, guess what? It's week 26 of 2020. Yep, we are halfway through 2020, and this is your mid-year check-in episode 78, your mid-year check-in. So let's have a look and reflect on the year that is 2020. Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 78 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. I cannot believe we are at mid-year check-in time. I thank you for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really appreciate you making me one of them. If you're a first-time listener, then hey, super welcome to you to your mid-year check-in. I'm so pleased to have you here. I am the host, Jen Donovan, and it's my job via this podcast, social media, and pretty much everywhere else I hang out to make your business life simpler. Because I know business can be lonely and hard and complicated, and it's goddamn rarely easy, but it should be simple, or at least a little bit simpler. So that is, of course, my commitment to you on the so-called Small Business Made Simple podcast. One way I can make your life a little bit simpler is by having you involved in my like-minded business owners group. It's over there on Facebook. It's a fantastic, very engaged group. Lots of awesome other small business owners in there chatting, willing to help as much as they possibly can. So if you're not a member of like-minded business owners, head over to Facebook, join the group. Of course, you can get the link in the show notes as well at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/78. Like I said a couple of times already, we are officially at the time of the recording in week 26 of 2020. And by heck, it's been a very wild ride so far. Usually in my mid-year check-ins, and when I say usually, I've only ever had one other mid-year check-in podcast, but usually we're talking about all those questions about, did we achieve our goals? Are we still working towards our goals? And is the goal we were working towards still important? For some of us, those questions are completely obsolete. For some of us, the change has been so drastic, the pivot has been so great that we are no longer thinking like we did in November 2019 when we set our goals. We are no longer the same business or the same people we were 6 months ago. Because if you look at my world, we've had flyers, we've had fires and drought and floods and COVID-19, and all these things have been stacked up against us in just a very short period of time. But questions 3 could still be very relevant. And that question was, is the goal still important? So the goals that you set, hopefully last year in, late 2019, are those goals still important to you? And if they are, that's fantastic. You should still be heading towards those goals. But for some of us, maybe we've had to pivot. Maybe we've had to change our business model, and maybe we therefore have had to change our goals. Whether your goals are still the same or whether they're not the same might depend on so many other different things. And if you're still working towards them, like I said, that's absolutely fabulous. Still, working out a plan, make sure you hit those goals for 2020. But if not, that's okay. Maybe it's time to set new goals. So maybe your mid-year check-in is actually your mid-year let's create new goals check-in. And for all of us, I've got to say, it's always a good idea for us to be looking at our goals and changing them if we need to do it. Of course, before you set new goals, or even before you think about what path you want to be on, despite this very crappy year and things that we can't control, in the first 6 months, I'd really love you to stop and think about these questions. So think about the last 6 months while you're thinking about answering these questions. We can really help you with setting goals going forward, regardless of how you've managed to cope or grow or scale in the first 6 months of 2020. So the first question is, what did you absolutely love creating and working on? The second question, what did you hate working on? What was tough? What felt difficult? What was your biggest money maker? What's your least money maker? And what do you never ever want to do again in your business? When I do planning at the beginning of the year with my clients, or even at the end of a year with my clients, and we're reflecting on the year that was, it's that last question, what do you never ever want to do again, that often trips them up. Maybe there's nothing in your business that you don't ever want to do again. Maybe there is something you don't want to do again, but because it's part of your business model or your marketing strategy, you know it just has to be done. But my question to you is then, perhaps, does it have to be done by you? Can it actually be outsourced? So if you've got things in your business that you're doing and you're just like, I absolutely hate working on these aspects of my business, is that something you can outsource to make your life better, simpler, easier, but also to help your business grow? Because if you're hating things that you're doing, then that perhaps is being reflected in maybe the outcome of whatever it is that you're doing. It's without doubt that the first half of 2020 has really made us sit back and reflect on our businesses. The good, the awesome, the bad, the darn right, if I have to do that, I'm simply going to quit. There's just been so much to learn from it, and I know my lessons will be very different to your lessons, and your lessons will be very different to the next person's lessons. But I really do hope that maybe me just planting the seed that this is a mid-year check-in, that you will actually take some time and start to reflect and make changes from what you've experienced in the first half of the year that can really challenge you and really help you grow and scale in the second half of the year. Like, some of my clients have given me some really great lessons during this, lockdown period, but they've also shown themselves to be very resilient and showing themselves some of the lessons that they needed to learn, or that perhaps they wanted to learn. So I have clients like Deb, who's really enjoyed slowing down. Her and her husband work in a multi-million-dollar business, and they've loved the fact that they've had to slow down. They're in the accommodation industry, so clearly that slowed without them having a choice. But they've made this pact that when they go back to reality, when things open up, that they're going to keep each other accountable so that they can keep a little bit of what slow life meant to them. Just thinking, how can we make our life a little bit slower, even when things start to rev up? Other clients that I have not only survived but thrived in their business. Like my retail client, Shell, she's had to look at what brand she carries. Not only the margins of those brands, but which ones have actually supported her through this time of the first 6 months of COVID, or the first 6 months, I should say, of 2020. Who supported her the most? Which ones have been complete and utter a-holes? And let's face it, we never forget those people. Karma, that's all I'll say. Karma will come back. But, really looking strategically at the brands that are being carried, at the margins of those brands, but also the ones that are willing to support her as well as sell to her. And other clients have really started to realize what a great marketing strategy is and how it works, which is just awesome light bulb moments to have. Some of them have realized the power of an email list, and this has been a huge learning for not only my clients but also people who listen to my podcast and the people that I hang out with on social media, because we noticed at the start of COVID-19 that people were leaving social media in droves because they were just so sick of what they were seeing. So business owners were finding it harder to communicate with their prospects. It became harder because they weren't spending as much time online. So it's kind of one of those things of, well, how else are you going to communicate with people? And it's a big lesson that I've seen over and over again. And for some people, unfortunately, it took a pandemic for them to see the power of an email list and how even if social media shut down tomorrow, that you still have that ability to communicate with the people who know, like, and trust you via email. I spoke on episode 71, which was really quite heartfelt for me, which was, your network is your net worth. My business wouldn't have been profitable. It wouldn't have survived. And well, it just wouldn't have without my network. My network was really how I managed to struggle through the first 6 months of 2020. And not only struggle, but probably thrive. And certainly, giving me an amazing outlook for the next 6 months as well. There is so much goodness going to come in the next 6 months, but all of that has come from the impact of my network of the people I have surrounded myself with. So my biggest lesson for the first 26 weeks of this year is all around my network. I am more willing and more ready to invest more in my network because I have just seen the power of a network. I always knew it was powerful, but heavens to Betsy's, I've seen absolutely how powerful it can be in the first 26 weeks of this year. So maybe you're thinking about setting some new goals for the second half of 2020. Despite all the unknown, these are the most important things that you need to remember whenever we set goals, whether it's a mid-year check-in, end-of-year check-in, or really just any day of any month of any year when we're thinking about our goals. So the questions we need to be thinking about are knowing what you want to achieve with that goal. What's the financial benefit of the goal? What's it going to take to reach the goal? And what's it going to mean to you and your business if you achieve the goal? Some of the most powerful thing can be when you are setting goals is imagining yourself on what it will mean to you if you reach that goals. Imagining how you will feel, what your business will look like, what the world will look like, what your family will look like, all that sort of thing if you achieve the goal that you've set out to achieve. So sometimes imagination can be the biggest driver. So question 4, what's it going to mean to you and your business if you achieve it? Dream it, imagine it, and then set it all in place. I can't encourage you enough to take some time to check in on these mid-year goals and reset if you need to, refocus if you need to, and really work out what's important to achieve by the end of 2020, but what you want to achieve by the end of 2020 and what's reasonable to achieve by the end of 2020. I'm all in for the stretch goal. Don't worry. I love setting a big, hairy, audacious goal, a big stretch goal. But sometimes we just need to realize the reality of where we are in our business and the reality of what's happening in external situations that we have no control of and set appropriate goals. So regardless of whether or not that's you, resetting goals, setting new goals, whatever it is, I've got a couple of pieces of advice that I would really love to give to you. My first piece of advice is make marketing a priority in your business. I know I sound like a broken record, but we've got to stop making marketing a thing of if we've got time. We need to make it a priority. I can show you the power of marketing if you will only make it a priority. So when you're resetting your goals, please reset the goal of making marketing a priority in your business. My second piece of advice is take time to look at your financials at the end of this financial year. Yep, crap, scary stuff, I know, but we've got to look at them. We've got to know what money we've earned. We've got to know what has made us money, what hasn't, what we've put our effort and energy into, and what the return on that investment is. And this is how we decide on our money-making activities, of which we should focus on our 3 money-making activities, but we need to know what they are so that we can make a really strong finish in 2020. Now, caveat on that, we shouldn't be just looking at our financials at the end of the financial year. I'm only saying that because of the time of this recording, but we should, of course, always be looking at our financials at least once a month. If not then, maybe once a quarter, but I'm no finance expert. But certainly we've got to know where our money is coming in, and so we can put more effort and energy into the places that earn us more money. My third piece of advice is do yourself a Marie Kondo cleanup. I did a podcast about this, I know, but we really do need to, clear our workspace, clear our head, and clear our mind. Spend 1 or 2 hours reorganizing your workplace if it needs it, giving it a clean and throwing out those thousands of sticky notes or thousands of scrap bits of paper with all the important things written on them. And just a side note, get yourself a notebook. You'll love yourself more if you have a notebook to write all those amazing ideas onto rather than sticky notes. Maybe while you're doing a clean out, clean out your inbox and your computer files and all those photos or all those Canva downloads or all those things that you don't need anymore. Give yourself maximum chance to start the next half of 2020 clear and clean. My fourth piece of advice for you is to put your goals where you can see them. Remember, as a child, perhaps, or if you have children, having the times tables up on the toilet, not on the toilet, but on the toilet door. There was a reason for that, because if we see something, we remember something, we practice something. So if you can see your goals every day, then you will be able to practice reaching those goals, imagining reaching those goals, and those goals will become front and center in your mind. Maybe consider, as a weekend activity of doing a vision board for yourself and putting it front and center to wherever it is that you've got time to sit there and look at what your goals are. My fifth piece of advice is learn to delegate. I know, if you just squirmed a little bit and maybe your inner core just shook, you are so like me. I'm so learning to delegate. I think, I write little notes to my VA and I finish them with, yay, look at me delegating. Like, I'm really quite proud of myself that I'm learning to delegate. But it is a change that some of us small business owners need to make in our business. You might be skilled at it, but do you need to do it? If we head back up to number 2, where we're talking about your money-making activities, maybe if something isn't your money-making activities, it is something that maybe you could learn to delegate to somebody else. And then, of course, you have more time to focus on your goals, which are right in front of you, and reach your goals for 2020. My sixth and final piece of advice is to find yourself an accountability buddy. What I term an unreasonable friend. We all need someone to keep us accountable. It's just one of those things with small business owners. If we can find someone to keep us accountable, we are so much more likely to make the shift than if we get to hide from the goals we actually set ourselves. If you don't have an accountability buddy or an unreasonable friend, then maybe head into my Facebook group, Like-Minded Business Owners, and someone there might be more than happy to pair up with you and send you an email every couple of weeks, or whenever it is that you've got a task to do that can actually keep you accountable to make sure you're doing the things that you said you were doing. It is so powerful, and it's one of the fundamentals that is missing on so many business owners, or for so many business owners, and it can make a massive difference to your output and your input every single day. If you're feeling completely stuck and you feel like your challenges are just too much at this point, then I'd love to invite you onto a discovery call with me where I can see how I actually might be able to help you. There's actually a link in the show notes to make an appointment to have 30 minutes with me, and we'll just chat about your goals and your struggles and your roadblocks and what's holding you back, and maybe how I can actually help you get over those struggles, or how to set some new goals, or help you get over the roadblocks. It's a Calendly link, so it's calendly.com/gen-smm-discovery. But of course, the link is in the show notes, and I'm sure you'll find it in my social media, or head to my website and it will be there on the Work With Me page, and you can book there. Again, if you're struggling, then it's time to reach out. It's time to find someone who just might be able to help you reach the goals you want for 2020, but also unblock your roadblocks and help you with your struggles. That's all for episode 78. Goodness me, that is your mid-year check-in. Tick, done. I really hope that some of these questions are really going to make you ponder and think about where you are heading for the next 6 months and beyond that, of course. I will, of course, be back in your ears next Thursday with another great episode to help you simplify your business in 2020. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. And if you've listened this far, I'm really hoping that means you have enjoyed the podcast. Feel free to share with another superstar business owner who perhaps needs their mid-year check-in because they're also doing the daily grind and would really appreciate someone making their life a little bit simpler. If you've got time for a rating and a review, then that would be so good. It would mean so much to me for you to spend 2 minutes rating and reviewing this podcast that takes a little bit to put together. Massive love coming your way, of course, if you take time to do that. I will see you next week on the podcast for episode 79. But in the meantime, let's hang out and get social on social. You'll find me on Instagram at Small Business Made Simple. Send me a DM. I'd love to hear from you on there. At Facebook, come and join like-minded business owners. Or, of course, join me on my favourite platform, LinkedIn. Of course, whatever you do, my small business peeps, remember, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
Tell like I feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are.